Let's dive into this idea of silence and its profound connection to success, drawing from the wisdom of Carl Jung, whose insights into the human psyche remain as relevant today as ever. If you seek success in your life, Jung's teaching suggests that silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's a gateway to discovering who you truly are. This first key point, embracing inner silence for self-discovery, is about turning inward to find clarity, purpose, and the unique path that leads to your own version of success. Imagine standing at a crossroads in your life, bombarded by opinions, expectations, and the relentless hum of the world around you. How do you know which direction to take? The answer lies in silence, not the silence of defeat or avoidance, but the deliberate, courageous choice to pause, listen, and connect with the deepest parts of yourself. Jung believed that true success begins with what he called individuation, the process of becoming your authentic self. This isn't about chasing external markers of achievement, money, status, or applause, though those can be part of it. It's about aligning your life with who you were meant to be, a process that requires you to peel back the layers of societal conditioning, fear, and distraction. Silence is the tool that makes this possible. When you quiet the external world, you create space to hear the voice of your unconscious, what Jung described as the reservoir of your deepest truths, instincts, and potential. This isn't some mystical fluff, it's a psychological reality. Your unconscious holds the dreams you've buried, the talents you've overlooked, and the fears that hold you back. But it speaks softly, and you'll never hear it if you're constantly drowned out by the noise of notifications, opinions, or even your own restless thoughts. Think about a moment in your life when you felt truly lost. Maybe it was a career choice, a relationship, or a time when you wondered, what am I even doing? Now imagine if, instead of seeking answers from others or scrolling endlessly for inspiration, you sat in silence, just you and your thoughts. It's uncomfortable at first, isn't it? We're conditioned to avoid that stillness, to fill every moment with activity. But Jung would argue that discomfort is exactly where growth begins. Silence forces you to confront yourself, not the polished version you present to the world, but the raw, unfiltered you. It's in that confrontation that you start to uncover your purpose. For example, picture a young woman named Sarah, overwhelmed by her corporate job, feeling unfulfilled despite her promotions. Everyone tells her she's successful, but she feels hollow. One evening, she turns off her phone, sits by a window, and lets herself be still. In that silence, she remembers her childhood love for painting, a passion she abandoned for practical pursuits. That quiet moment sparks a realization: her true success lies in creating, not climbing someone else's ladder. Months later, she's teaching art classes, fulfilled in a way her corner office never allowed. Silence gave her the clarity to redirect her life. This isn't about retreating into a monastery or swearing off conversation. It's about carving out intentional moments of stillness to listen to yourself. Jung's concept of the unconscious is like an inner compass. It's always there, but you have to tune out the static to hear it. In our hyper-connected world, this is harder than ever. We're bombarded with information, from social media feeds to breaking news, all screaming for our attention. And yet, Jung would remind us that the answers we seek aren't out there, they're within. Silence is how you access them. It's like turning down the volume on a noisy radio station to finally hear the signal you've been missing. When you do, you start to notice patterns in your life. Maybe a recurring dream, a gut feeling about a decision, or a quiet nudge toward a path you've been too busy to consider. These are the whispers of your unconscious, guiding you toward what Jung called your true self. Let's make this practical. Imagine you're facing a big decision, say, whether to take a new job across the country. Everyone has an opinion, your parents, your friends, your colleagues. You could spend hours Googling pros and cons or asking for advice, but Jung would say, stop. Be silent. Take a walk without your phone, sit with a journal, or even meditate for 10 minutes. Ask yourself, what do I feel in this moment? What excites me? What scares me? The answers that bubble up in silence are often more honest than the ones you'd find in a flurry of activity. This is because silence strips away the external pressures, the need to please others, the fear of looking foolish, and lets you hear your own truth. For someone like Sarah, it was rediscovering her love for art. For you, it might be realizing you're meant to start a business, mend a relationship, or finally pursue that dream you've shelved for years. Jung's psychology teaches us that the unconscious doesn't just hold personal insights, it's also a wellspring of creativity and intuition. Think of the great artists, writers, or innovators in history. Many of them, from Einstein to Maya Angelou, spoke of moments of quiet reflection where their best ideas emerged. Silence allows your mind to make connections you wouldn't see in the chaos of daily life. It's why a simple walk in nature or a quiet morning coffee can suddenly spark a solution to a problem you've been wrestling with. Jung saw this as the unconscious at work, weaving together your experiences, memories, and instincts into something new. When you seek success, whether it's building a career, nurturing relationships, or finding personal peace, silence becomes your ally. It's not about doing nothing, it's about creating the space for your inner wisdom to guide you. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Silence can be intimidating. We live in a culture that equates busyness with importance, where being on all the time feels like a badge of honor. Sitting in silence can feel like wasting time, or worse, it can bring up emotions we'd rather avoid: doubt, fear, regret. Jung would say this is exactly why silence is so powerful. Those uncomfortable feelings are part of your psyche, and facing them is how you grow. When you sit with your fears instead of distracting yourself, you learn what's driving them. Maybe you're afraid of failing at that new venture, but in silence, you realize that fear comes from trying to meet someone else's definition of success. That realization frees you to redefine success on your own terms. This idea of silence as a path to self-discovery ties beautifully into the second key point we'll explore later. Using reflection to make better decisions. Silence isn't just about finding yourself, it's about equipping yourself to act with clarity and purpose. When you know who you are, every choice you make becomes more intentional, more aligned with your goals. Jung's philosophy reminds us that success isn't a one-size-fits-all trophy, it's the courage to live authentically, to build a life that reflects your deepest values. And that starts with the simple, radical act of being silent. So, how do you begin? Start small. Set aside 5 minutes a day to sit quietly, without distractions. No phone, no music, just you. Notice what comes up: thoughts, feelings, ideas. Write them down if it helps. Over time, those moments of silence will become a habit, a sacred space where you reconnect with yourself. You'll start to see your path more clearly, whether it's a career pivot, a creative project, or a personal transformation. This isn't about escaping the world. It's about grounding yourself in it, so you can show up as your fullest, most authentic self. As you move forward, remember this: silence is not the absence of action, it's the foundation of meaningful action. In the quiet, you find the strength to become who you were meant to be. So, dare to be still, dare to listen, and let that inner voice guide you to a success that is uniquely, powerfully yours. Now, let's turn to our second key point: which builds beautifully on the idea of silence as a tool for self-discovery. If you seek success in your life, as Carl Jung's wisdom suggests, then embracing silence is not just about finding your true self, it's about using that stillness to harness the power of reflection over reaction. In a world that demands instant responses, quick fixes, and constant hustle, Jung's philosophy invites us to pause, to think deeply, and to choose our actions with intention. This isn't about withdrawing from life's challenges but about meeting them with a clarity and strength that only comes from quiet reflection. Success, in Jung's view, isn't about how fast you move but how thoughtfully you navigate your path. Let's unpack this idea and explore how silence can transform the way you make decisions, leading to a life of purpose and impact. Jung's psychology emphasizes the importance of introspection, the act of looking inward to understand not just who you are but how you engage with the world. He believed that our reactions, those knee-jerk responses to stress, conflict, or opportunity, are often driven by unconscious impulses, shaped by habits, fears, or societal pressures. These reactions can lead us astray, pulling us toward choices that don't align with our deeper goals. Silence, however, gives us the space to step back, to observe our thoughts and emotions without being swept away by them. It's like stepping out of a fast-moving river onto the bank, where you can see the current clearly instead of being carried by it. This reflective pause allows you to choose your next move deliberately, with wisdom and purpose, rather than being driven by impulse or external expectations. Let's bring this to life with a simple example. Imagine you're a small business owner, let's call you Amir, and a customer leaves a scathing online review about your product. Your first instinct might be to fire back a defensive response, fueled by frustration or hurt. That's a reaction, and it's natural, but it's not always wise. Now, picture this. Instead of typing a hasty reply, you close your laptop, take a deep breath, and sit in silence for a few minutes. In that stillness, you ask yourself, what's really going on here? Is there truth in this feedback? How can I respond in a way that aligns with my values? As you reflect, you realize the customer's complaint points to a flaw in your process that you can fix. Instead of arguing, you respond with gratitude, address the issue, and improve your business. That moment of silence didn't just save you from a public spat, it turned a challenge into an opportunity for growth. This is the power of reflection over reaction. Jung would say this process is about integrating the conscious and unconscious parts of your psyche. When you react impulsively, you're often acting from what he called the shadow, the unexamined parts of yourself, like pride, fear, or insecurity. Silence allows you to shine a light on those shadows, to understand why you feel triggered or uncertain. By reflecting, you bring those unconscious drives into awareness, giving you the power to choose a response that serves your higher goals. This is especially crucial in moments of high stakes, whether it's a career decision, a personal conflict, or a creative challenge. Success doesn't come from always having the loudest voice or the quickest comeback. It comes from the quiet strength to pause, reflect, and act with intention. In our fast-paced world, this can feel counterintuitive. We're conditioned to believe that speed equals success, that if we don't respond immediately, we're falling behind. Social media amplifies this, with its endless cycle of likes, comments, and hot takes. But Jung's teachings remind us that true power lies in restraint, in the ability to step back and think before you act. Reflection through silence isn't about being passive, it's about being strategic. It's the difference between a chess player who moves impulsively and one who studies the board, anticipates outcomes, and plays with purpose. The latter wins, not because they're faster, but because they're wiser. Let's consider another example to make this practical. Picture a young professional, Maya, who's offered a high-paying job that looks perfect on paper. Her friends are thrilled, her family is proud, but something feels off. The pressure to say yes is intense. Everyone expects her to seize this opportunity. Instead of deciding right away, Maya takes a weekend to unplug. She goes for a long walk, journal in hand, and sits in silence by a lake. In that quiet, she reflects on what success means to her. Does this job align with her passion for helping others, or is it just a shiny distraction? Through this reflective pause, she realizes she'd be trading her values for a paycheck. She politely declines and pursues a role with a nonprofit instead, where she feels fulfilled every day. That choice, born from silence, sets her on a path to a success that's meaningful to her, not just impressive to others. This practice of reflective silence is deeply rooted in Jung's idea of individuation, the journey to become your whole, authentic self. He believed that every decision you make either brings you closer to or further from that self. When you react without thinking, you risk letting external forces, fear, ego, or societal norms, steer your life. But when you reflect in silence, you reclaim your agency. You ask the hard questions. What do I want? What am I afraid of? What's worth my time and energy? These questions aren't answered in the heat of the moment. They require stillness, a willingness to sit with uncertainty and trust that clarity will emerge. Jung also saw silence as a way to connect with the collective unconscious, the shared reservoir of human wisdom and archetypes that shape our experiences. In moments of quiet reflection, you're not just processing your own thoughts, you're tapping into something deeper, a kind of universal intuition that guides you toward decisions that feel right, even if they defy logic or convention. Think of those times when you've had a gut feeling about something, a job, a relationship, a risk. That's your unconscious speaking, and silence is how you hear it. For instance, an entrepreneur might sit quietly before launching a new venture, reflecting on whether it feels aligned with their vision. That pause might lead them to tweak their idea or even pivot entirely, saving them from a costly mistake. Silence, in this sense, is a form of inner wisdom, a compass for navigating life's complexities. Of course, embracing silence for reflection isn't always easy. It requires discipline to resist the urge to act immediately, especially when the world is shouting at you to keep up. It also means facing uncomfortable truths. Maybe you've been chasing the wrong goals or avoiding a difficult conversation. But Jung would argue that this discomfort is where transformation happens. By sitting with it, you grow stronger, more self-aware, and better equipped to make choices that lead to lasting success. This connects directly to our first key point. When you know yourself through silence, you can reflect with greater clarity, making decisions that honor your true path. So, how do you start? Begin with small moments of pause. Before responding to an email that frustrates you, take 5 deep breaths. Before making a big decision, spend 10 minutes in quiet thought, asking yourself what feels true. Over time, these moments will become second nature, and you'll find yourself navigating life with a calm, grounded confidence. You'll react less and respond more, choosing actions that align with your deepest values. In the end, success isn't about how loudly you speak or how quickly you move, it's about the quiet moments where you choose who you'll become. So, embrace silence, reflect with purpose, and let your decisions shape a life that's not just successful, but profoundly yours.